Right, slightly different video today. Those of you who follow me and watch some of my videos know that I recently sustained a bit of a knee tweak, nothing major. But my MCL in my right leg has been playing me up, so I haven't squatted for a couple of weeks. So today's session is the first session I'm going to be trying out squats for a couple of weeks. But I'm just going to show you, because I know a lot of you guys out there will, you know, if you're a regular lifter, we all walk around with aches and pains and knee pain and things like that. So I'm just kind of showing you the kind of things that I do if I have a bit of an injury, like a knee injury or anything like that. Because the MCL, I mean, it can be very, very painful, and it's a very sharp pain on the outside. You've got the ACLs inside, the MCLs the outside. So I was getting some very, very sharp pains down inside my legs. So I have been training legs, but I've done some backwards walking, which hopefully you've seen some YouTube shorts. Backwards walking works a treat, works really, really nicely. But you can't have legs without squatting, so I want to reintroduce squats. But I'm going to show you the kind of things that I do to kind of wake my knees up a little bit. So to start with, I don't even know what these are called. I call them knee backs, I don't know why. I started doing them during COVID because I hadn't got access to a leg extension, and I just sort of made them up. So what I do is I put my leg through. This band gives you around 50-ish kilos resistance when it's fully extended. So what you do, attach it to something pretty solid. So this is one of my boxing stands. The base weighs about 80 kilos, so it's pretty solid. It's full of water, it's about 80 kilos. And then I go back to a point where there is a bit of tension, quite a bit of tension. So here is a nice sticking point, and you'll see that my heel comes up off the ground. And what I'm trying to do is basically just straighten my leg, and you will feel, it feels almost like a leg extension, except you don't get the tension on the actual knee. It just hits the muscle directly, but it's a really, really nice warm up. And what I'll do is literally a couple of sets of around 30, maybe 50 reps. I don't really count, I just do it until it kind of burns and things start to click together and feel good. But yeah, really, really effective. So as I'm doing this, you get tension here, but you get a tremendous amount, and I'm just concentrating on pushing my heel into the ground. Now, I'm not a huge proponent of stretching and all those kind of things. I, generally speaking, when I lift, I warm up for the exercise by doing the exercise. I know some people are well into, you know, doing their bands and stretching and what have you. I'm not really that guy. But this, when my knees are playing up, and I am generally speaking quite lucky, considering I've been training such a long time. I don't really have too many knee problems. But when it does play up, it's normally the MCL. And I find these work a treat. And again, you just go up, let your foot come off the ground, so your heel's pointing up, and then just try and push your heel into the ground. And you'll feel all of this area here, all the muscle around here will flex and tighten, but you won't get any pressure on the actual knee, on the knee itself. I don't know what the science is behind it. I discovered it by accident because I'm quite an experimental guy. I love lifting, and during COVID, when gyms were closed, I've got access to a bar, so you know you can stiff leg deadlift, you can do your kind of basic squats and what have you. But I was just trying to be, you know, think outside the box, and I was trying to think of ways to mimic a leg extension. And I tried like attaching it underneath a bench and all sorts of things, and I just didn't quite get the right resistance profile. But these are really, really good. But as I said, in the process, it really helps warm up the knees. I have no idea how many reps I've done there, but my legs are starting to burn. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to do 10 more reps just because I've done a load of them. I'm just talking to the camera. But you get the idea. And then I'm going to swap over, do the same on the next leg. What I'll probably do though is just fast forward that for you guys in a minute. But unfortunately, it just comes with the territory. Knee injuries, aches and pains and tweaks. I'm sure every single one of you guys out there, almost everyone who watches my channel, is a gym head. You know, you're a meathead. You go to the gym, you push yourselves hard. We all. Are any of you ever fully 100%? No, none of us are. There's always something we're battling. But there are some things that you can fight through, and there are others where you just have to be careful. My YouTube views are down at the moment, so a lot of you probably didn't even see the squat video. But the way I tweaked my knee was actually a few weeks ago. I love assault bike. Well, I don't love it. I do a lot of assault bike, and I'm very good at the assault bike. I can put some real power into it. And I was doing 10 sets of 10 calories on the minute every minute. And I was about 3 minutes in, and I really started to put down some power. And I just felt a really sharp pain in the outside of my knee. And it's so ironic. What hurts me, you guys have seen me squat well into the 300s on a relatively regular basis. What hurt me? Doing some cardio on the assault bike. So when it's your time, it's your time. But I subsequently had another leg session about a week after. And I put it up on my YouTube channel. Not many people watched it. I don't think it's even got 100 views. But I went up, I did some box squats. So I find box squats are actually really good when my knees are playing up a little bit. And the warm-ups were going really nicely, and then I got to 5 plates, what's that, 220. And I felt a sharp pain in the side of my knee. I carried on like an idiot. And I went all the way up to 320, I think it was it 320? 300, or maybe it might have been 300, I can't remember. I went up to something decently heavy. Because the 5 plate hurt me a little bit, and I carried on. I slowed down the weight jumps, and then it felt okay, and I wrapped my knees. But then I got up to my top set of 300 or 320, whatever it was, and I regretted it, to be perfectly honest. I didn't really say much on camera at the time, but my knee really started to throb and hurt. So I've tried to be reasonably smart since then. And I haven't done any squatting, so this is about 2 weeks now without squatting. The injury probably took place about probably about 3 or 4 weeks ago, the original injury. So I've just been doing backwards walking as my main quad exercise. I have done a little bit of leg press, but even the leg press was aggravating it a little bit. So my workouts have been more hamstring orientated. I've done backwards walking, and then I've done quite heavy hamstrings. Again, my videos get no views, but not my last video, the video before. Check it out if you haven't seen it. But I mean, I did like a 5.5 plate good morning for a few reps. I think about 8 reps, 10 reps, something like that. Did some heavy deficit deadlifts, did some Nordic curls. So anyway, I'm going to give it 10 more reps. So I'm not trying to build muscle, but I'm getting a really nasty burn at the moment. So everything feels like it's firing. There we go, cool. Right, so I'm gonna go and set up for my first exercise. Now my first exercise that I'm going to do is going to be a box squat. And I'm just going to see how it feels. I am not going to be breaking any records with the poundages today, but what I'm going to try is accommodating resistance. So it'll allow me to use some weight. I don't know what I'm going to go up to. I'm just literally going to see how my knee feels. But I'm going to put chains on there. So the idea of the chains is it unloads at the bottom, and with the way my injury is at the moment, it's at the bottom of the move that it hurts. So at the top, when I'm my legs straight, it doesn't really hurt. So at the bottom, the chains will deload a little bit, and then at the top, I'll get a bit more weight. So it'll allow me to train and move something. But you know, if I can get 140, 180, something like that, I'm just gonna literally play it by ear. I don't know what it's gonna feel like. But if I have to stick with 100, I will. Or if it's too painful, I'll just leave it. But yeah, and that'll be pretty much it. Okay, so I've just set up 60 kilos on the axle. These chains are, I can't remember, they're 8 or 10 kilos, nothing major. But you'll see in a moment, the idea is that as I go down, the chains will deload a little bit. So this isn't any major weight for me. You guys know what I squat, hopefully if you watch my channel. I'm quite a decent enough squatter. But I'm just trying to get a bit of mobility going, a bit of blood flowing, and just test it out a little bit. Nothing crazy. I'm going to stick initially, I'm going to try about 10 reps and just see how that feels. Because today isn't necessarily about trying to build muscle or anything like that. It's just a case of getting the leg going again, getting the knee going again, reminding myself how to squat, and trying to squat relatively pain-free. I've set the chains. If you see, I've actually got a plate underneath the chains. Now, what you find with chains when you do them, it becomes quite unstable. Now, I find these plates help keep the chains a little bit more stable. They kind of collect at the same points. So those of you who use chains will probably know that it can throw you all over the place. These aren't heavy, but when you start adding 30 kilos, 40 kilos of chains on, it can throw you around a little bit. So it's a top tip for anyone. If you get a plate underneath them, particularly if you've got like a deep dish plate, it's a great way of them just collecting and moving, collecting and moving. To be fair, I probably need to move it over a little bit more. So, just going to try it out. And chains sound pretty cool. Yeah, that felt fine. I was aware of the knee, but it wasn't anything super painful. I was aware of it. It doesn't feel 100% by any means, but it felt okay. It felt okay. So with that in mind, I think I'll jump up to 2 plates, do 100 kilos. Now, when you've got an injury, or a boo-boo, whatever you want to call it, this isn't a proper injury, but it's something I'm aware of and it's compromising my training. The best thing I can say to anyone is check your ego at the door. You know what you can do when you're healthy, so don't worry about it. My ego died when I was about 30. I'm 46 now, not too long until I'm 47. But in days gone by, I think when I was trying to recover from an injury, I think, oh God, everyone in the gym's looking at me. I normally lift this, so I've got to try it anyway. And that's just another way of getting yourself hurt. Train for yourself, and if you're confident in your own training, don't worry about it. Genuinely, don't worry about it. All you need to do is just go and look on my channel. You see the kind of weight I move. I don't care. At the moment, I am just trying to get my knee healthy. So if I do 100 kilos plus the chain and it feels good, I'll just stay with that. I really don't mind. Hopefully I'll be able to do a bit more than 100 kilos, but you get the idea. So anyway, I'm going to do the 100 kilos and just see how that feels. That's fine. And to be honest with you, 100 kilos actually felt better than 60 kilos. The knees are getting a bit more lubricated. Yeah, that was absolutely fine. I only jumped to 140. Give it a try. What I'm also doing is experimenting with my stance. When I do a regular squat, I squat with a relatively narrow stance for a taller person. I tend to squat with a stance that's around shoulder width-ish, maybe a tiny bit wider. When I box squat, I tend to take more of a sumo stance. I do take quite a wide stance. I did that on my first set, but those of you who may be looking a bit more closely, I actually brought my feet in a little bit on my second set. And it could be that I was just warmed up anyway, but my second set felt more comfortable. So what I'm going to try and do now is just squat with my feet just a tiny bit narrower, so around just outside shoulder width apart. More of my standard squat stance. And I'll just see how it feels. If it feels funny, I may well adjust in the middle of the set. So I'm just going to experiment and see. Yep, that was cool. So I found the right stance now. And again, it's just about experimenting. I squatted closer, slightly out of breath now. I squatted closer to my regular stance, which is in the region of shoulder width apart. And I felt much more comfortable than going wide, which is weird. I don't understand why, but everyone's anatomy is different. Because ordinarily, I would say to most people, if you've got a knee injury, the closer you have your feet, the more pressure it puts on the knee. So I would advise most people to take a slightly wider stance to take the pressure off the knee. I'm just weird, don't know what to say. Right, I'm going to go up to 180 because 140 felt fine. So I'm going to try 180. See how that goes. Okay, so I'm having this as my top set. Even if I feel like I'm capable of doing more, I'm going to cut off at 180 today. Because as I said, all I'm trying to do is just wake the body up a little bit. Whatever I do, because I haven't squatted for a couple of weeks, whatever I do is going to hurt, to create a bit of DOMS. But as I said, more importantly, this is like a rehabilitation session. I know a lot of you will be saying, Mark, you're rehabilitating yourself with a 190 squats or whatever, but for me, this is it's a moderate weight. It's a moderate weight. But as I said, it's just where you just check your ego at the door. I don't care. I don't need to do more than this today. I'm just simply just trying to wake the body up. So I'm going to get into it. I'm going to go for 10 reps. Because I haven't squatted for a couple of weeks, that 140 for 10, I can really feel my legs activated. They feel good. I've got quite a nice pump going. I'm again deliberately not using knee wraps. I don't normally use knee wraps until I hit normally towards 260 anyway. With an injury, I would say to most people, use wraps or knee sleeves. But I just want to see how it feels without it. I'm being quite instinctive today. Sometimes it's a case of do as I say, not as I do. I'm a very experienced trainer, obviously as a personal trainer, and I've personal trained for well over 20 years, and I've been training, at the end of this year it's going to be 31 years. So I know my way around the gym and I know my body. So I just want to just feel and see what I can do without any support. So as I said, 180 top set. Yeah, that was cool. That was cool. Didn't really feel any pain. I could feel, what I'd say with that, I'm aware of it. It doesn't feel normal. It doesn't feel 100% by any means. But there was no super sharp pain, which is what I'd been experiencing quite a lot. Because those of you who have had ligamenty pain, the way you recognise ligamenty pain is almost a very sharp pain. It feels like you're being stabbed. It just feels like a knife in the side of your leg, either the inside or the outside. So with ligament pain, don't push through it. We all have aches and pains, like, you know, a bit of tendinitis in the knees and things like that. But when you've got proper ACL, MCL pain, and you get that, as soon as you get that sharp pain, stop. It's not nice. Ligament pain is not nice, and if your MCL or ACL goes, you are almost guaranteed to have surgery. I've got a cousin at the moment who's going in for surgery. To be fair, next week, he's going to have surgery. He was being an idiot playing football. He's a big guy, but he was playing football, being an idiot. Went in for a tackle of some kind or another, tore his MCL, and did some other damage as well. And he's a trainer, he's a strong guy. You'll have seen him on my channel in the past. But he's a big guy, and he was playing football, ended up tearing his MCL. And now he can hardly walk on it, to the point that he's going in for surgery. But, yeah. One of those. Right, I'm going to set up my next exercise, so I'll talk to you in a minute. Okay, my next exercise then is backward step ups. So I find when I do step ups, going what you said, conventional way, the correct way, it can put a bit too much pressure on the knee. Things like lunges as well can, I find, irritate my knee a little bit. So, but I do find, in the same way I've told you about backwards walking, and you've seen, hopefully, have a look at my YouTube short recently where I did a 400 kilo backwards walk and broke a handle because I was training heavy in a commercial gym and the handle broke. Anyway, enough of that. But this is another really good, if you haven't got access to a heavy sled or anything like that, this is another really good one. That's relatively easy to do. All you need is a few plates to stand on or a small box or something like that. I'm using a safety bar. I'm lucky I've got some decent equipment at home, but you can do it with a normal bar. You can also just do it with some dumbbells. And again, it just activates this whole area. So I'm using accommodating resistance once again to make it a little bit heavier at the top, a bit lighter at the bottom. I don't honestly know what this is going to feel like. When I was setting up, just to get the right height, I just did it with the bar. I've thrown on the plates just because that's what I kind of tend to do automatically, to be honest with you. The height is about right for me. Again, you can set this to whatever your comfort level is. At the moment, I've got 3 bumper plates there. I don't know how many inches that is, maybe 8 inches, thereabouts. But you know, if you find that that's a bit uncomfortable for you at the moment when your knees are, do it on a plate, doesn't matter. Do it on 2 plates. If you find that's way too easy for you, do it on 4 plates. So you can grade it. Eventually, you know, you could work up, you can see my box over here. I've got an adjustable box, but you could work up to something pretty high on a bench. The only thing I'd say is just be careful because you're stepping backwards, you don't want to fall over. But you get the idea. But I've done these in the past when my knees have been playing up a little bit, so I do find them pretty effective. So I'm going to give this a try. See how it goes. I'm going to probably keep the reps a little bit lower. I'm going to see, because I find if I go really high reps on things like this, it's about coordination. and I find myself just getting a bit careless and losing my balance. And again, I'm not trying to build muscle at the moment, I'm just trying to rehab the knee. So, you know, maybe 5 reps-ish per leg. I'll see. And that's why it's important to be instinctive with your training sometimes. Because I'm doing this and I can't see, I just have to make sure that my foot is planted before I move. I didn't think about the other leg. Let me think. You know what, I'm just going to move over here. I didn't think this through. Oh well, I'm doing it on the fly. This is a really nice pump. And again, I'm not feeling any pain, but it's activating all of the musculature around there. Even though my left leg is the healthy leg, I'm still doing the same exercise. Okay. The fun part was putting it down. But yeah, that felt good. That felt good. Because of the awkward setup, I'm not going to go any heavier than that. I could go considerably heavier than that. To be honest with you, I felt strong, and I wasn't once again getting any knee pain, which is great. But today, like I said, isn't necessarily about muscle hypertrophy. It's just about getting the knee going, reminding it that it still works, getting a bit of blood in the area, and strengthening all that lovely musculature around the knee. Because the best thing I can recommend when you have an injury, bulletproof yourself. Get everything else around that injury strong. Many years ago, and times have changed, 15 plus years ago now, I've had a lot of problems with my back over the years. And over 15 years ago, when I was in my very early 30s, I went to the GP with yet another back injury. I ended up having to have my sort of x-rays and MRIs and all those kind of things. And I was diagnosed with a bulging disc, but it's just a permanent bulging disc that I've got now. So it shifts around, it presses on the sciatic nerve. So I live with permanent sciatica, and I have done for years. Sometimes I barely notice it. I've always got it, but sometimes I barely notice it. Other times it can be absolutely agonising. But the best thing I ever did was get back into deadlifting, get back into heavy rowing. You guys see my channel, you know the kind of stuff I do all the time, and that's with a bulging disc. I was told by my doctor at the time, basically, more or less words to the effect, stop training. By the time you're 40, you're going to have spinal fusion surgery. You know, and it really got under my skin because to me, I looked at it as a challenge at the time, because the doctor, he just didn't have a very good bedside manner, and you know, he made me feel really bad, or he was attempting to make me feel really bad about myself. And all I'm doing is lifting weights. I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm trying to make myself healthier and stronger and prolong my life. And he was really sort of judgmental, looking down his nose at me, and it really got to me at the time. But my whole attitude wasn't, oh God, I've got to stop. It was, you know what, I'm going to show that doctor. And here I am 16 years later, still lifting decent enough poundages. And the best thing I ever did was get back into deadlifting. So when I was suffering from some very bad back injuries in my late 20s and early 30s, I got out of deadlifting for probably about 2 or 3 years, just because I kept on getting injured. And the injuries stemmed from stuff I did when I was very young, when I was 16, 17, 18, lifting with bad form. Because I was the original ego lifter, I've said this to you guys before. I was young, strong, full of testosterone, and I used to lift everything. I was very strong, but I used to lift with bad form. And because I was training in the mid-90s, I just learnt how to lift by watching other guys at the gym. I used to watch my VHSs, I used to watch DVDs, and I used to read bodybuilding magazines, but I didn't really have people around me telling me exactly how to deadlift, because deadlifting in the mid-90s wasn't a thing. I know it's very popular nowadays, but powerlifting in Britain wasn't a thing in those days. It was all bodybuilding, and you did what the guys in the magazines did. And it wasn't until Ronnie Coleman came along in 1998 and won the Olympia and became a phenom, that because he was Mr. O and he swore by deadlifts, that you started seeing deadlifts creeping into gyms. And we didn't have commercial gyms in those days, they were all privately owned, like family gyms and things. So I just used to watch what guys down the gym did. No one really deadlifted, so I used to look at the magazines, and there are so many nuances to deadlifting. You know, obviously not rounding your back and your hand spacing, that you miss unless you've got someone really who knows how to deadlift by you, telling you whatever. And I just used to lift with bad form. So hence the reason when I was younger I kept on going until I was in my early 20s and I blew my disc for the first time. And over the years I've slipped my disc probably about 4 times, but I got to a point when I was in my early 30s where I was in almost permanent agony, and then I ended up going to the doctors, and it's because I've got a permanent bulging disc that was always out. But best thing I ever did was just armour plated it, and I built so much muscle and so much strength on top of it that it just pushes everything back in. And I still live with back pain, and some days you'll have good days, some days you'll have bad days. But as soon as I'm able to, I stretch myself out, I do a lot of dead hangs and things like that to open up the spine, get rid of the compression. And I get deadlifting, I get rowing as soon as I'm able to, and activate all that musculature. I guarantee within a couple of days I feel better. Anyway, enough talking, back to this. I know I said I was going to do 5 reps, but I feel cool. My coordination hasn't gone that much. He says almost falling over. Easy. That's the hard bit, is putting it down after. Now normally, I'm just doing this as one continuous cut. What I would do is I'd actually stop between sets and just move the plates across a little bit. But to be honest with you, I'm feeling a bit lazy, so. And this isn't anything major. My bar is 36 kilos. What's that? 76 kilos plus chains. So yeah, it's probably going to be in total around 90-ish kilos, which is nothing major. But as I said, I'm not I'm not trying to break any records today, I'm just trying to wake the leg up, wake the knee up, and everything's feeling good. It's the first time I felt my quads in a couple of weeks. Feels nice, feels really nice. Now, if you can see, I'm using accommodating resistance, so it gets heavier at the top, lighter at the bottom. If you haven't got access to chains, if you haven't got a home gym or your gym doesn't have them, don't worry about it. Bands, you can see over here, I've got a collection of bands from I've got a few more than this, but in terms of the range, I've got my yellow band, which I think is somewhere around 10 kilos-ish resistance. When stretched, I've got a load of those. I've got my black band, which theoretically, they're a bit stretched out now, but it's meant to be closer to 20 kilos. I've got my purple, which is 30 kilos. I did have another one, what was it red? I had another colour, I broke it relatively recently, because bands do snap. So I haven't got that one. Then I've got a 50 kilo or thereabouts. And then this one is a nightmare. This is my, I think at full stretch it's 78 kilos. And these are a nightmare. They're absolutely fantastic. And I use those for deadlifting and squatting. But what you can simply do is get something to secure the band. For instance, just put a plate over the top of it. And then once it's over, there you go. Now, obviously I've just done that very quickly, but you can tie it to a dumbbell, whatever, and it's just another way. So if you haven't got chains, fair enough, but there's no excuse. Bands are relatively cheap, or certainly the lighter bands are relatively cheap, and I would say they're a must for anyone. There are just so many exercises you can do with bands, particularly obviously if you're a home gym owner, but just in terms of going to your own gym. You know, if you are someone that finds that the weights at your gym aren't quite heavy enough, because you may be training in a slightly more commercial gym, get a band attached to the bar, get a band attached to your dumbbell, and you'll find that it's just a great way of just changing the strength curve, but just adding a little bit more weight. Right, anyway, just throw those over there. I'm going to get my last set of these. Almost missed it there. But again, just getting a really nice pump here. Okay, now here's the hard part, putting it back. Are we on? Kind of. There you go. As I said, the only reason I'm a bit thrown off there is because I'm being lazy and not moving the plates around. Ooh. Okay. Going to set up for one last exercise. Going to do a little bit of hamstring work. Okay, moving on to some Nordic curls. So it's just a hamstring exercise. Those of you who saw my most recent hamstring workouts will have seen me started. I've just recently started reincorporating them To be honest with you, since having this knee injury. I've done a lot of quad stuff, but it's always really important to make sure you're working your hamstrings as well. Now, for most people, I would say for every quad exercise, I would recommend doing a hamstring exercise. I don't necessarily always follow suit with that. So sometimes it's do as I say, not as I do, because I do a tremendous amount of deadlifting and stiff legs and things like that. So my hamstrings get a tremendous amount of work on other days anyway. So I find on a leg day, hitting one hamstring exercise directly is okay for me. But for a lot of people, if you maybe don't deadlift as frequently as I do, I would recommend for every quad-based exercise, you equally do some form of hamstring exercise. So it could be a stiff leg deadlift, it could be some kind of like a one leg curl, a lying curl, a Nordic curl, something like that. So most leg workouts, let's say you incorporate 4 exercises in total, I would say you want to have a couple of them being hamstring orientated. But that's just me, because you want the front of your leg strong, but you want the back of your leg strong. It would be like doing your biceps but not training your triceps, or training your chest but not training your back. It's the same kind of equivalence, but sometimes people tend to lose that, and when they think of legs, they think of quads. But strong hamstrings, not only do they look good aesthetically, but it's also very important for knee health and joint integrity. So Nordic curls are pretty easy to set up. All you need is a weightlifting belt, which you've seen me just attach, a flat bench, and that's pretty much it. Now, I'm using a band to kind of help myself up. I'm not, again, trying to break any records. When I'm a little bit stronger on these and a little bit healthier, I can do them with my body weight. I weigh 132 kilos at the moment. I actually weighed myself yesterday. So I'm pretty heavy. So I use the band just to help me out the bottom a little bit. Now, last session I did these for sets of 10. So to just make it a little bit more difficult and show a little bit of improvements, I'm going to try and get 12 or thereabouts. Now, they are very challenging, particularly if you're heavier, but they're absolutely worth it. And again, just for joint integrity, the knee, you want the front of the knee strong, but you want the back of the knee strong as well. Absolutely important. I think that's 9. 10. And try not to slap yourself with the band. Right, I'm just going to sit here for a moment rather than untying myself, because I'm going to go again in about a minute or so. Really good stuff. Really good exercise. I mentioned in my last hamstring video, they were popularised, I'd done them for quite a while, but they were popularised by Knees Over Toe guy, who is really big on knee rehabilitation. He's an ex-basketballer who had to have a couple of operations and basically rehabilitated himself to the point that he's like this athletic freak nowadays, and this is one of his big things, one of his big go-tos, is the Nordic curl. Now, because of that, obviously companies jump on the bandwagon and they bring out their Nordic curl benches and all that kind of stuff. And as I said, I've done it for years, literally just with a weightlifting belt, just an old weightlifting belt and a flat bench, which we've all got access to. So you don't need to worry about that. And you can make it more difficult for yourself by adjusting the bench that you're on. So if you find it really challenging and you haven't got access to a band, then do it on an incline, so you don't have to come down as far, and just gradually lower the bench down. You could do it weighted if you wanted to if you really felt gangster, you could even do it on a decline bench. I've never done that. No, I don't fancy that. But I'm just saying there are lots of ways of making it less challenging or more challenging for yourself. Right, let's get round number 2. I'm just going to get 3 sets of this, and then that'll be me pretty much done. I did calves because you guys may or may not know I do a lot of conditioning work, and I actually hit my calves this morning, so I'm not going to hit them now. But normally, you know, I'd say to you guys, finish off with some calves of some kind or another. But I've already done them earlier on in the day this morning when I was doing my conditioning work. So I try and slow the negative down a little bit, and then if you need to, you can give yourself a nudge out the bottom. So I don't need to, but I'll just show you. So I'm just, you saw me just give myself a little push and it'll get me going. Now I can feel my hips riding up a little bit as I'm getting tired. It just comes with the territory. If you have your bum up in the air and your hips up in the air a little bit, it makes it a little bit easier. Your body will always find a way to cheat. But I'm sure you can imagine, I think that was 11. Trying not to slap myself in the face. I'm sure you can imagine doing a 130 kilo hamstring curl isn't that easy. So if my form breaks down, I apologise, form police, but it's still working the muscle pretty effectively. Okay, I'm going to get one more set in a moment, and then assess the damage. At the moment I'm really pleased. I've had a pretty much pain-free leg workout, which is the first pain-free leg workout I've had in a couple of weeks. My methodology seems to have worked, warming the knee up with the band, box squats with accommodating resistance, step-ups, reverse step-ups, and this seems to have worked the truth. So, you know, I'm not saying you have to do what I do by any means, but if you are tuning into this and you're looking, because I know it can be a bit depressing, it can be a bit horrible when you've got knee pain and you just want to train. These are great ways, I find, of kind of coming back from those little owies, those little bumps and bruises and injuries and things. Okay, last set. They're getting quite challenging now. Oh man. Oi. Oh. You know what it's like with hamstring, you feel like you're going to get cramp? Just starting to get that feeling there. Alright, done. Okay, so that's workout done now. I've been talking to you guys all the way through. Overall, really pleased with the workout. I feel good, feel rejuvenated, feel like I've had a bit of a leg workout, because I don't know about you, but I don't feel like I've had a leg workout until I've squatted. And it was just nice putting a bit of weight on my back and moving it and not feeling like my knee was going to pop out. So yeah, just give it a try, So the things to take away: warm your knees up with bands if you can. Accommodating resistance really does help. backward steps really do help, and train your hamstrings just for joint integrity, generally speaking. Plus, hamstrings just look really cool. Those are your go muscles. All right, on that note, I'm going to leave it there. So if you're tuning in for the first time and you kind of like what you see, don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, and all that good stuff. Trying to get to 1,000 subs. Last time I checked, I was on 979. So I'm not that far away, guys. So I need 21 subs, that's all I need. So if you could help a brother out, it would be very much appreciated. I've been pushing YouTube now for about 11 months now, 10 or 11 months. And I'm really enjoying it. Yes, about 11 months actually. Really enjoying it. But that 1,000 subs would be a nice little milestone for a little old middle-aged man like myself, training in his back garden, to say, oh, they love me, they really love me. Feed my ego. Anyway, on that note, I'm going to leave it there. You guys take care, have a good week, train hard, and I'll speak to you soon.